Hello, my name is Katie Wardle, and I am the program specialist at Mountain Crisis Services. Mountain Crisis Services is a domestic violence and sexual assault agency located here in Mariposa, California. We offer free and confidential services to anyone who has experienced this crime. Victim Witness asked me to give a speech during Victims Crime Week on my story of being a domestic violence survivor. Because of COVID-19, that has since canceled, and now I am here to do this video. I am a survivor of domestic violence. When I went through domestic violence, I was 18 all the way till almost I was 21. So about 2.5 years I was with my abuser. When I first met my abuser, he was amazing. He was stunning, beautiful, gorgeous in all ways around. He was a Marine and a Native American, and I instantly thought that he was attractive, and he felt the same about me. Our relationship moved very, very quickly. Within 2 weeks, he asked me to have sex with him. I was a virgin at that time. I had no idea of how to have sex. I'd never had any sexual experiences. So I was very, very nervous. He bought a box of condoms and basically coerced me into having sex with him, saying, we've been together this long, we should do it. I have the condoms, come on, let's go. So I agreed. When you think of your first time, you think of, at least for a girl's perspective, you think of this, amazing and wonderful time. For me, that wasn't my experience. As he was going along, it was very, very, very painful for me. I told him to stop. Well, I actually told him to slow down. I didn't tell him to stop. When I told him to slow down, he went from 0 to 100 very quickly. He jumped out of the bed and yelled at me, told me he didn't know how to deal with a virgin and it was all my fault. After that happened, I was in a very bittersweet type of mood. I was sweet because it just happened, and I was bitter because I didn't really know what I did wrong to deserve that reaction from him. So it was a very emotional time for me. About a month and a half in, he began to become very angry with me and his life, and his way of dealing with his anger was to play wrestle. When we play wrestled, that was really his way of showing his dominance, power, and control over me. He knew that he could hold me down with no effort whatsoever, and I could not fight him off. I think that was his first sign, knowing that he could control and hold his power over me. When we started doing that, he started to leave bruises all over my chest and on my arms. At that time, I was in a competition cheerleading team, and I told my mom that the bruises were from the cheerleading. She knew that's not what they were from. She knew that I was in this unhealthy relationship, and it caused a lot of issues between me and my family. Basically, my family didn't want me to be with him, and he didn't want me to be with my family because he wanted to isolate me, and he wanted me to be his and only his. And I didn't want that. I wanted my family involved. So I was often stuck in the middle for both, and it was a very emotional and very different time for me. I'm going to kind of skip ahead to the ending of the story. We went through a lot of emotional and verbal abuse throughout our whole entire relationship. It was a constant emotional roller coaster. The cycle of violence that often abusers put onto their victims, it starts out with a honeymoon phase, then you have your tension phase, and then you have your explosion phase. Throughout our relationship, we've had the cycle of violence on multiple occasions. But for the duration of our whole entire relationship, our honeymoon stage was the first 2 months. Then the rest of the stage was the tension. And then the ending was the explosion phase. About 2 weeks before Thanksgiving 2012, he left me for another woman. At that point, that was the second time he had left me, and I was over it. So I started contacting people and met this person who we actually developed a sexual interaction between each other. He really taught me a lesson, telling me that, I was worth what I was, that somebody would love me for the way who I was and who, my flaws were. So it really it really brought to light that my abuser lied to me and that I knew other people would care for me a lot better than he did. About a few days before Thanksgiving, he calls me and he tells me that he is very sorry for what he did for leaving me. He made a mistake, and that him and his girlfriend at the time was up here in Mariposa and he needed a ride down to Fresno. At the time, I felt very responsible for him. Everything that happened in his life was my fault, as he never took any responsibility for his own actions. And in that case, I did feel a sense of responsibility and a sense of responsibility of taking care of him. So I decided to pick them up and take them back down. When I picked them up, the girl sat in my back seat. The whole time, my abuser was caressing my body, telling me that he loved me, that she meant nothing to him, and, he was sorry for ever leaving me. And the whole time, this girl was in the back crying. I felt her emotion. I felt weird and disgusted by him because he put me through all of that, and now he's putting her through that. And that was really a huge sign for me. At the time, I didn't really act on it, but later on in life, I really took that as the sign of the abuse that he has really took me through. When we dropped her off, he asked me if I had ever been with somebody else during the 2 weeks. And I told him yes, which was the biggest mistake I could have done in our relationship. Thanksgiving Day is a day that I will never, ever forget. It was 2012, and I had asked him if he had any plans for that day. He told me no. He doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving, and nor does his family had any plans for that day. So he told me he was going to stay at the house. So I left him. When I went up to my family's house, he constantly sent me messages saying, "You're a stupid bitch. How dare you leave me here? I mean, you're so selfish. How can you only think about yourself? I want to kill myself, and all you can do is think about yourself. How dare you?" This was typical of my abuser. This wasn't normal or not normal. I constantly received these messages, so really I didn't think anything of it. I just said, oh, whatever. This is just typical him. I'm just going to let it go. When I got back to the house that night, things got worse. I sat down in the couch, and he sat down in a recliner. I can't remember what was said. I can't remember what even happened, but he got triggered and he jumped up and he grabbed me by my hair and threw me down onto the ground. When he did that, I immediately went into a fetal position so that he wouldn't kick my face or punch my face. He started kicking my back, punching my back. He basically lengthened my body, so my back, my butt, my legs, my arms. He was constantly kicking and punching them for about a good 10 minutes. And then he finally stopped. When he stopped, he sat down and he was huffing and puffing. And I laid there crying. I was in shock that this was going on. He told me that I needed to get up and stop being weak. So I did. I got up. I walked past him, showing him I had no fear. As I walked into the kitchen, he charged at me again and pushed me down. This time, he was able to push my body over and sat on top of me. I couldn't move my arms. My body was pretty much stuck. When he did that, he decided to put his hands over my neck and began to strangle me. When he did that, I could feel my neck being tightened. I can feel my airflow becoming less and less. And I could feel my mind slowly losing consciousness. As he was squeezing my neck, I was looking up at his face. And I was looking into his eyes, and they were black. It's like somebody took over his body. I didn't really understand it. But I told myself, I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of me looking into his eyes as I died. So I turned my eyes to a window that was nearby. As I looked out that window, I envisioned my mom, my dad, and my sister. And I thought to myself, they aren't going to know that I'm dying. They don't know that I'm dying. I've never said, my last words to them. I wasn't prepared to die today. I wanted my last moments with them. And all of a sudden, a voice inside my head told me that I needed to fight, and a wave of adrenaline rush hit my body. I was able to wiggle myself enough, my body, to where I was able to kick him or knee him in the groin, and he was able to keel over. I got it from there, and I ran to a room as he followed. I got into a room and I locked the door. He stood outside of it growling. I was trying to grasp my head around, why did this happen? Why is he like this? I had never seen this side of him before. It was like a demon basically took over his body. And it was very scary. So I sat in the room for about 20 minutes just trying to grapple with what happened. He had my phone, so I couldn't call anybody. I was basically left there to fend for myself. I decided to muster up the courage and walk out of the room. As I walked out of the room, I checked all the crevices around me. As I did that, I walked down the hall, and he came around the living room and pushed me up against the wall again. His eyes were still black. At that point, I just started crying. I was so distraught that I just lost it. When he saw me crying, his emotion totally changed. His face went down, his eyes turned brown, and he began to cry. He told me that he was sorry for what he did, that if I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have deserved being strangled by him. And if I didn't have left him that day, I basically deserved to die, is how he kind of expressed his way of feeling behind the stranglement. He then told me that he loved me very much and that he wanted to make it up to me and have sex. I did not want to have sex with him at all. I was actually very disgusted with his face and was still very traumatized by what I experienced. But I told him yes because I knew it was going to calm him down. And I was wrong. We started having sex, and he then began to strangle me again and becoming outraged, yelling at me, saying he couldn't believe that I had another penis inside of me other than his, and that my vagina was a dirty vagina. Because of the trauma that I experienced that night, I really put myself in an out of state, out of mind. I let myself not be in that place. I numbed myself. So to be honest, I can't remember how I got out of that situation. The only thing I remember from the rest of that night was taking a shower and going to sleep with the person that just attempted to murder me. The next morning I woke up and I decided I needed to get out of that relationship. But I didn't really know how. He threatened to kill me with law enforcement. He threatened to kill me if I involved my family. He threatened to kill my family. All these threats really had me in fear of what he would do. So I ended up calling his uncle behind his back. His uncle was a trusted person. I told his uncle everything that happened, and he was in shock and told me that he'd call me back in about a few hours. He called my abuser back and let him know that he had 2 job openings in Washington, D.C., and that he needed to get over there. My abuser told me this, but he was having some mixed emotions behind it. He didn't want to leave me because then I would have been left without him. He would have lost his control over me. And I just told him, you know what, go over to Washington, D.C. I'll make my way over there with you. I'll transfer all my school units and we'll make it work. And I played this persona for a good month until he actually left. Since he's left, he's been in contact with me a few times throughout the years. The last time was actually this December. I have him blocked on all social media sites. He's tried to add all of my friends for whatever reason. And luckily, I have a good friend base and they let me know when that happens. But I ended up looking up his name on Google search back in sometime last year. And what I found out really hit home for me. He was picked up on a domestic violence charge, and the DA actually picked up the case, and he now has a criminal protective order against him from his victim, and is also going through the criminal justice system for the domestic violence. When I found that out, it really hit me hard. Throughout the 8 years, I suffered from depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, social interactions. So for me, that just kind of vamped up everything. And my way of coping with the trauma was not the best way of coping. I drank a lot. I seeked a lot of sexual advances from people. And I was not happy. I was not happy with myself. And I let myself struggle for 8 years before I finally decided that, you know what, I need more help than what I was receiving. I'm very lucky to have the family that I do. My family is very supportive regardless of how I responded to the trauma and how I coped with it. I put them through a lot of stress, and I put them through a lot of things that I'm not proud of. But at the same time, I'm very grateful that they've stuck by my side this whole time and shown me that they truly do love and care about me. With them, I would not be here today. Without envisioning them that night, I would have not had that adrenaline rush to fight back. I would be 6 feet in the ground right now. And if I would have stayed with him 6 months more, I would have been 6 feet under as well. So that was my way of leaving my domestic violence relationship. It's not the most appropriate way, but that way for me as a survivor, that was my safest way for me to do that. Do I have regrets? Yes. But again, at the same time, that was the safest thing that I could do for myself. And that's what we try to tell our victims at Mountain Crisis. They know their situation best, and you're not going to tell them anything different. And if they feel that it's going to be more dangerous to leave a situation, then we're going to understand that. So with my life, I've really built myself up. I have a bachelor's degree. I went to Illinois. I have a master's degree. I'm working in a domestic violence agency now. I'm now engaged to the love of my life. He's absolutely amazing. He has supported me through my emotions and my trauma that I experienced, and he knows my story. So he's able to help me through a lot of it. And it goes to show that my abuser was wrong. My abuser told me that I was worthless, that I was nothing, that I was fat, I was ugly, nobody would have loved me and cared about me. And it shows that he was wrong. I really built myself up with my life. My mental health is still on a daily work, and I'm okay to say that. I want to be vulnerable and let people know that it's a struggle. But you have to work at it. And I now am working at it because I want to become healthier for myself, for my future husband, my kids, and my parents and my sister. I want to become a better self and a better version of myself. So I want to thank the district attorney and victim witness for allowing me to give out this video of my speech and let people know my story. And I also want to thank Mountain Crisis for giving me the opportunity to be able to work with clients that have been in a similar situation that I have. And I'm able to live a very humble and rewarding life knowing that I'm able to assist these clients. I'm very grateful for where I'm at now. And I wouldn't want to change anything that ever happened to me because it wouldn't have given me the experience that I have to help others in my same situation. I want to let you know if you are still in a domestic violence relationship, you are not alone. There are services out there, and we are waiting to assist you. Our hotline is 209-966-2350. I thank you, everyone, for listening in if you've gotten this far in the video, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.